Welcome to an after first round, before second round playoff edition of USL All Access. USL Championship playoffs are well underway. USL League One had their surprises over the past week as well. And with Devon Kerr and Emmett McConnell, Mike Watts, glad to walk you through all 8 games of the past week. Get you ready for the upcoming 4 that'll play on Friday and Saturday, which you'll see on ESPN Plus, and you'll hear Friday night's game, the one that we all thought could be a conference final, being played a week early, Sacramento and San Antonio, right here on the channel on SiriusXM FC Friday night. Devon, you are in multiple playoff modes right now. There's a ton going on. You've spent the last 2 days crushing game tape to be fully prepared to discuss this wild week. Before I get to you on that, I'm just going to give a little credit where it's due. Danny Cruz from Louisville. I had Louisville and Memphis on the local affiliate in Louisville, Kentucky this past week. And I said, Danny, what do you think of this bracket? Because, Devon and I are thinking this looks like there's going to be a lot of chalk. It looks like a lot of good seeds are going to be bad seeds. He said, I don't think that at all. I think it's going to be insane in the first round. He was not just talking about his own game. He was right, and we shouldn't be paid to do this for a living.
No, I mean, we're primarily talking about what went on in the Eastern Conference, though. I mean,
sure.
The West that's a different conversation. We're going to get there, but I can't remember a first round that was this much of a disastrous calamity. Do you?
I wasn't going to put it that way, but sure.
I mean, mine's a little less eloquent, but it's what everybody's thinking, right? Notice, by the way, I know SiriusXM FC listeners can't see what's going on, but making our way to YouTube, I've stood up today. I'm animated. I have to. I'm so freaking tired from watching tape, because it's not just watching tape on games that I didn't call. My son, Kingston, my oldest, his godmother is in town. It's also Casey's best friend, maid of honor. Well, in everything that's gone on, mainly procreation, I've slowly been moved out of my house to my 7v7 cube, which is heaven, I might add. I mean, look at all the room for activities. We can get bunk beds in here. But where I'm going with this is, I'm not just tired because I'm hosting everyone. I'm not just tired because I'm watching all the film. I'm tired because I'm sleeping on the couch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got relegated to the couch. I am considering, however, given the fact that I just hit another level with Marriott, maybe treat myself.
What are you on now?
I'm headed towards 100 nights.
Okay, well, join me in the Titanium, and if you get to Ambassador, that's even better.
Is Ambassador 100 nights? Is that the number?
It's 100 nights, but also
so 70 is Titanium, right?
Well, you need $23,000 in spend
to get it.
Yes, and there's a certain employer that I have where the spend for those nights don't count. And I'm a little salty about it.
So you only get the nights, you don't get the money.
I barely even get the nights.
Can I tell you that I didn't even know that there was a spend involved on these statuses? I mean, Delta for sure, but yeah, I didn't know that there was I better go check the spend. Yeah. I mean, I know that I hit what is 70? 70 is platinum. Or what's it called?
You might be into Titanium by 70.
70 is Titanium. Okay, yeah. So that's what whatever 70 is or 75, that's what I just hit. Okay. So that, hey, maybe I'll take the dogs and I'll go get some rest and, watch film in an air-conditioned, uninterrupted, child-free, quiet room. We're off base here. Let's go.
Yep. All right. Real quick, before we get to the championship, League One followed exactly what you thought it would. So Madison goes down 4-1 to Northern Colorado. Greenville goes down at Charlotte 3-2. They got one late. It wasn't nearly enough. Good performance by the Independents from what I got a chance to see. You'll see the USL League One final on ESPN2 in just 2 short weeks. Omaha and Omaha.
Check. Hot route.
Yep. They do reseed here.
Yeah,
so that's
correct.
important. Omaha will host Charlotte, North Carolina FC, who are soon to be promoted by any measure. We'll see Northern Colorado at home.
Do we discuss, I think we should probably get this out of the way, considering we discussed it on last week's show, the fact that the structure of the playoffs have changed this year. And it's
Indeed.
actually a late amendment that we weren't aware of, so we probably need to correct that, right?
Go for it.
Okay, so in previous iterations, the USL Championship playoffs, seeding certainly within your conference. So depending on the year, whether it was the crazy 2019 play-in, 10-win, blah, blah, or 10-team, top 8 is what we know it as now. The way that it has worked in previous years is that once you got to the final, regardless of what your seed was, it went by points. So, for instance, you could have finished with 50 points and ended up in 5th in the Western Conference, but maybe your 50 points was more than a third place team in the East. So it didn't go by seeding, it went by points. If the third place in the East had 48, 6th or 5th in the West had 50, you would actually host the Western Conference team. That is different this year. We're actually sticking to seeds. So if a 2v2 or a 2 plays a 2, a 3 plays a 2, it's all going to come down to seeds, not actual points. That changes things.
I'm in shock.
I am in shock as well. And it would have been nice to have known this prior to heading into postseason play. Who knew? You know?
Yep.
Who knew?
Anywho,
We don't get a vote for postseason awards. We don't get a vote for all 11, and we certainly don't get a seat at the round table to pull out the sword from the stone and talk about postseason structure.
All right. At some point, you'll walk me through all that again. You lost me.
Okay.
League One final, by the way, is November the 5th. That is a Sunday, the following weekend, USL Championship final. All right, let's get into the East. Pittsburgh was the number 1 overall seed. This was obvious to most. And yet, all I'm going to say is last week I kept saying they let Detroit hang around in the last game of the season, and you never know. And all of a sudden you gain a little confidence, and you don't score that many goals, and these always tend to be 1-goal games, and you get deep into a playoff match, and things start to get a little weird, and they got weird. Pittsburgh sets their attendance record at home. Detroit gets a goal from Dominic Gasso. To be fair, 9 million things happening in the penalty area. Ball bounces out really kindly to Gasso, and this dude rips it. It goes between 6 different people through 3 dimensions and eventually lands in the net. Pittsburgh is shocked 1-0. Dev, as you go back and rewatch what has to be one of the more stunning upsets we've seen, and for my money, because it's Detroit, I maybe don't rate it the same way because they have a winning culture. It's not a team that slipped in for the first time in a long time. They even with a poor budget and a bad offense, I still thought they had a chance. What did you see watching this back?
So we'll start with the game itself, and I saw a very discombobulated, uninspired Pittsburgh team that struggled to get anything going on the attacking side. Now, I want to say, first off, tip of the cap, Detroit, incredible win. One for the ages. Would make the argument, and I don't think it's even close to say that is the biggest win in their USL Championship history in 2 seasons. No doubt about it. I certainly got it wrong. I didn't see it coming. Let me put it this way. If I was a betting man, I never would have bet against Pittsburgh. But to your point, am I surprised if a team could get it done? I'm not that surprised that Detroit could get it done. Detroit was anemic on the attacking side too. They had nothing, but that's been the argument all season long. I didn't like the setup personally from Bob Lilly. I thought the idea to keep Danny Griffin deeper than Mark Ibarra and let Ibarra go. I didn't even know Bernardo Forbes was on the field until he stepped off in the, whatever it was, 70th minute, 65th minute. He was that out of it. They were out of sync is the best way to put it. They lacked width. They lacked combination play, which was the biggest thing. And they played direct all night long, unsuccessfully. And I'll give Detroit credit on the defensive end. They didn't take the bait. They never chased the game. They just sat there. And anytime that they started to step a little bit, they kept their back 3, 4, depending on where they were in the game. Certainly the shift to the 4 is something I want to talk about, but they just sat. If anything, Michael Bryan on the right side, he tended to go a little bit more, but Pittsburgh, this is where, and I want to be really clear, I'm giving Detroit credit. But to me, about the game watching it, this was more about Pittsburgh being horrifically bad compared to getting beaten by Detroit. Detroit didn't do anything magical. They didn't break them down. They got lucky, and you need luck in the USL Championship playoffs. They deserve to win. I give it to them. Let's be clear. But they got lucky on a ball that bounced out, that was cleared inappropriately twice, that made its way through traffic and a cornfield and jumped across the Monongahela and ended up in the back of the net for Jamali Wade. Sorry. That's what it was. Pittsburgh was terrible. Like, so bad in this game. And I don't understand why. I was thinking about it last night. Why is it every year we see, at least regularly, we see a Pittsburgh team that either destroys teams, sets shutout records, impossible to score on at home. I mean, for one point in time, Bob Lilly's goals against average, we should have looked that up, by the way, at Highmark was like 0.8.
At what point are we going to identify the Pittsburgh team is constituted as that was a team built to go win a league, not to win a playoff? And yet during the Open Cup, we kept seeing them chip away, and we went, well, maybe this is the. I sat here and thought, okay, now they've shown they can consistently win knockout games, right? But over 34, would you bet against them against Detroit? No. But the one-off nature of it and how tight they play sometimes, I think they got it wrong in part. Now, they had, 3-4 genuinely good chances and scored none of them. Steinwasser had 2 really solid saves.
Yeah, and most of them were in the final 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the game.
Right. Yeah. Once it clicked that, like, this is about to happen again, then there was some motivation.
Where does this rank for you in terms of upsets in USL Championship history? And I want to give you a little backstory, the reason I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Nicholas Murray, the guru of USL Championship history, put out an article, and he and I have agreed a lot this season, which is odd. God love him. He actually, so the way that he broke it down was point differential. So for instance, his number 7 is in 2012, the Wilmington Hammerheads is the 5 seed, beating the number 1 overall seed in Orlando City. That Orlando City stretch of 11-14 was insane, by the way. Go check it out. So the point differentiation between the two is 20. So if you go by just point differentials, he makes the argument that this is the number 1 overall upset ever. I don't see it that way. I don't think you do either. Like, his number 2 is that 2014 Orlando City again. Jamie Watson, my boy, R.I.P. Our boy. Harrisburg City won. Yeah, in the Orlando City squad.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
USL Championship Orlando City squad.
No, that's important.
Yeah. It's basically Louisville. So
yeah,
they were at a plus 20. That's ranked as the number 2 overall upset at plus 25. They lost 1-0 to an 8 seed. Like, to me, that was a much more massive upset.
Yes.
Than comparing this, right? Like, it's got the Phoenix RGV game on it that I called a couple of years ago. And I don't mean I was on the call for it. I mean, I said I saw that coming from a mile away. Even that one was like, if you were in the room, you kind of knew that was coming. Like, Oakland El Paso, that upset to me was bigger than this.
Yeah,
because of postseason, because of being at home, the win streak, everything. It's not to say that Oakland couldn't do it. So I'm giving you my examples of things that rank higher. To me, this is a top 10, maybe could make an argument, probably a top 5, right? It's not the number 1 ever.
Yeah, here's my thing. I did last week on this show suggest multiple times Pittsburgh plays a style that in a playoff game against a Detroit team that gives nothing lent itself to getting knocked out. That Detroit was actually a worse matchup than Miami because they don't do anything.
Yeah.
That was the perfect lull Pittsburgh into neutral opponent. And so I wasn't as shocked as the numbers stratified would make you think. Yeah. Harrisburg over that Orlando team, that's in 14, that's what I'm talking about.
Agreed.
Even 2015, right, Los Dos? half that team ended up going to the MLS squad the following year.
100%.
Some of them are still around.
You saw in the format all the upsets that I had there, right?
Yeah.
So
Orange
like
County over a 1, Sacramento over a 1. Those
by the way,
reminder,
the 15, 16, 17 Los Dos beats OC Blues, now Orange County. That was so OC was the 1 seed that gets down. The next year in 2016, OC is the 8 seed. They beat the 1 seed in SAC. In 2017, SAC, that was the one that lost in 16, is the 8 seed in 17, and they take down Mark Briggs' Real Monarchs, who won the then regular season title. Now it's the Players' Shield. I would really, if I was going to be in a room and help pick names, that's what I would do. I want to vote for the names for these things. Moving on.
All right. By the way, did you see who was in attendance at the Pittsburgh game?
Oh.
Golf legend.
Oh. The
dart smoker,
beer drinker, Hooters loving John Daly, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, he couldn't drop the stove for the picture.
It was excellent, man.
Like, bro, get rid of the heater, man. Give me a break. Give me a break, dude.
Devon, don't lie to me. If you were in Germany back in the days when everyone was smoking in the locker room, you and John Daly would have been boys.
Yeah. The only thing that I was disappointed at is like, I envision John Daly as like rolling his own, like he's got
his own what?
Tobacco, his own cigarettes. Like he's got his own papers, his own tobacco. He rolls it. Either that or he's an unfiltered guy, Lucky Strikes. That definitely looked like a Marlboro Red cigarette. I could tell by the filter on the end.
Yep. No, that was the Cowboy Slayer for sure.
Dude, so now we got John Daly and what's our boy from College Game Day? Help me.
Our boy, Hound Tan. Pat McAfee, who's also a Pittsburgh Riverhounds fan. By the way, there was a Pittsburgh high school football game that went viral because the referee kept going, holding, it's first down. And they had a supercut of all the dons that this guy dropped. And I think there was a touchdown in there.
Love that.
I think we've done enough on Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
they're off to go play golf with John Daly, regrettably for us all. The Battery had no interest in any BS this weekend. Zero. Destroyed Indy 11. It was 3-0 by the half. It was Fidel Barajas was as
incensed,
electric, as I've seen him.
Possessed.
He was amazing.
Well, coming back from international play, he had the spark he needed, right?
Yeah, and now if you're the Battery, you're the 1 seed in all effect in the East. For all that went on, you led the way for a while. You dropped out. You held into the 3 by not dropping in that last day or last 2 weeks. You now own the next 2 games on home ground, including potentially Louisville if you do see them. Huge.
There's a lot of disrespect behind the scenes too, by the way. You saw the Backheel did their and USL Tactics did their votes, and it's got Hurt Gomez and Joe Lowry, and everybody picks against the Charleston Battery in that game.
Yeah, here's the thing about Charleston.
And just real quick before you say that, and I want you to say it in a second. Those kids heard it. They read it. I was texting with some people in the organization with the Charleston Battery. They feel disrespected. Like they heard and saw all of that. They were like, we don't have any respect. Maybe now they'll listen a little bit.
Indy is not the team I would have stood on the table to say they're going to beat Charleston. But
I'll put it to you this way. I don't disagree with you. I would also say that Indy smoked them.
They did
earlier this year. Although I felt Indy's form coming into postseason was better, they didn't really beat anybody. If you go look at who they played, their record wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. But the football overall was better. I've never enjoyed how they looked on the Battery field. That's not an argument. It's just stylistically the way that Mark Lowry wants to play. I've never enjoyed it. To be fair, they were in that game till about 35 minutes in. Now, chance creation in the final third wasn't as much as I would have liked it to be. And there were some chances for the Battery. But that's a 1-0 game where they still had possession. They still had opportunities, and they were still in it. And even though it ended up 3-0 at halftime, I thought the Charleston Battery were even better in the second half.
Yep.
Only scored 2, which is Two was plenty,
but
right?
you didn't need more.
You
than
didn't
that.
need it, and they were incredible, man. Honestly, like I really enjoyed, especially the first 20 minutes of the second half. I thought the whole game was good, but the first 20 minutes of the second half, I sat back and went, "This was the team that we saw could go and beat anyone in the league at the beginning of the year." They're interchanging, though, as clean as they were on the ball. Augie Williams holding form, Fidel Barajas in one-on-one situations, set pieces. They did everything within this game, including handing retirement papers to Tim Troke.
That's also true.
It was bad, man. He didn't play well, and I felt bad for him, but the Charleston Battery, they looked really good. Really, really good.
Indy, no Solomon Asante. I don't know if that changes the game. No Jack Blake.
That was a big one for me.
That's a really big one. Dev, you want to hit on big postseason wins, or is the list too long?
No, we're good. So I was just kind of curious at the 5-0 that was, where this ranked in USL Championship postseason history. A couple in recent memory. Orange County beat St. Louis FC in 2018 by 4. Louisville smacked Red Bull the same year, 5-1. Monarchs, wow, that crazy game that was Real Monarchs over Orange County. That was a 6-2 game. That was en route to the title. It's not the biggest ever. It's the second big. It's tied for the second biggest ever with Orlando City, who beat the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, pre-Bob Lilly, pre a bunch of coaches, actually, back in 2013. The largest postseason victory in USL Championship history actually belongs to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in 2019. It was Birmingham Legion's inaugural year. They were in the play-in game. They won that, and then they got smoked by 7-0. 5 is still second most. So Charleston Battery got a little work to do. You got to score 8 next game.
Hey, all right, let's motor here. 5th seed Louisville outlast Memphis in penalties. It is 1-1 in regulation. Louisville gives up a goal 32 seconds into the game.
Oh, yeah, they were ready.
32 seconds. That's the second fastest goal in the history of the playoffs. Our boy Devon Sandoval, the only one who did it faster. Louisville's won a playoff game every year. They're trying to get, again, for the 9th straight year, to the conference final this coming week. Can Amadou Dia get back this week? I think he can. That's enormous. How much can you get from him? I don't know. Carlos Miguel was all over the place in a fairly good way.
Would agree.
What is Memphis moving forward? I don't know, because if I'm Rhode Island, if I'm anyone with unspent money, Aaron Malloy is my first target.
100%.
And Jeremy Kelly's not far behind. And Kiss Yedu isn't that far behind him.
Yeah.
Memphis better be ready to flash a little money, or they're going to watch their roster go poof.
Well, they already got knocked last year with their coach and players because they weren't willing to open up the checkbook.
And you had all these options. So you're able to keep Malloy.
You're able to keep
the money.
But think about the dear Lord, why is my brain is frozen? Striker, help me. Ended up in Tulsa.
I mean, Goodrum. The only
Thank
reason
you very much,
he's
Philip
gone.
Goodrum. He was another one, though.
It made it into DaCosta, but of course DaCosta didn't play in this game. He picked up a knock on Thursday and never reached the field.
Real quick, I know we want to talk about what they're going to be. What about what they were? In your eyes, given everything that went on off the field leading into the end of last season,
I was pleasantly surprised.
I agree with you 100%. But to your point, though, if they don't retain some of those pieces and start to go make a couple of moves, you will not be pleasantly surprised to see them on the outside looking in next year.
Nope.
Agreed.
Yep. Was that Louisville's best performance? No. But I did talk to Danny Cruz, and one thing he said to me in the lead up to that game, in essence, Mike, the tone of my voice is good, and I sound excited because I know we have the quality to do it.
It's not a question.
A million percent. And so as they pick up a win on Memphis, now they get an 8 seed in Detroit at home. That conference final that didn't look so hot not too long ago suddenly seems within reach.
And also,
amazing.
And one of the bigger quotes that I took away too, which was out on social media, was in the press release. He goes, guys, we're playing another week. We are playing another week. I'm happy to be here. We're together. We get to go to work for another week. That's all that matters. It is amazing when you hit postseason play, Mike, as a player, what that belief can do to you.
Yep.
That just one win, in whatever fashion it is, scrappy, pretty, ugly, penalties, you don't care. I've been there before. I've done it in penalty shootouts. I've done it as a youth player. I've done it in college. I've done it at the pro level. To find a way to just push through as a team and get a result, all of a sudden, you look around that locker room and go, see? All that crap that we waded through all season long that pushed us into the most ridiculous, negative, and uncomfortable places that made us as players and people push to challenge each other to get to better places. All right, now it seems like it's worth it a little bit. Yep. Get rid of that 90 minutes. Let's go focus on the weekend. Let's go chase another title. That's exactly what's going on in that dressing room.
1,000,000%. Dev, let's finish off in the East here. Birmingham and Tampa Bay. Everyone, and
Shredded.
I'm not singling you out, literally everyone.
Yeah.
Thought Tampa Bay was playing like the best team in the league by a wide margin. They own 60% of the ball. They create more than enough chances. They get stung by Tibor Itaka. Then it's Mwegbo and Kasim in the second half. Birmingham has now won 2 playoff games on the field. One was a play-in game against NCFC their first year. The second was because of a walkover because Pittsburgh had COVID. This is really the first playoff game they've won, and they had a great Open Cup run this year too. Wow. That's more stunning to me, not because of Birmingham, but because of Tampa Bay.
Agreed. And remember I said in the Pittsburgh-Detroit recap, I said, this is more about Pittsburgh being bad. I'm not going to do that than Detroit being good. I'm not going to do that here. Yes, the Rowdies certainly did not play well. They did create within the game, and they did okay. I don't want to say they did enough. They weren't horrific, but Birmingham was very good. They were very, very good. And this is the team that coming into the postseason stretch, I kept saying it. You kept agreeing. I'm like, I've seen, if we had to bet on someone getting in, if we had to bet on someone making a run, did we not keep saying that you had to keep an eye on the Birmingham Legion because of what we had seen earlier that year? I've always maintained that if I get a glimpse of a team and I can see over a couple of games that they can put stuff together, that I'm on board. I'm here for it. You got to win 4 in order to win a title. You put 4 together, it seems like it's easy, right? But if you go look at the scheduling all season long, teams that have actually won 4 games in a row, it's not that many. Birmingham Legion, I have a feeling that whoever wins, and I think you and I talked about this, but I have a feeling that whoever wins the Birmingham-Charleston game, that's it. That's the person coming out of the East. All due respect. That's my guess. Again, I hope everybody goes through, and I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Louisville gets another star, and I hope that, Detroit can find a way to keep going on, but just the way teams are playing, the level that I've seen, you don't know who's going to end up playing where, but I like those 2 teams out of the East.
All right, there's a look at the Eastern Conference. That's where a lot of the upsets were. The Western Conference, only one upset. We'll chat about all 4 of those games. We've also got a look ahead to the 4 games this coming week in the conference semifinals. It is all coming up right here on USL All Access. Dev, you want to turn this off real quick? Welcome back to USL All Access on this whatever evening this is airing. It's going to be a little sporadic the next few weeks. Playoffs for everybody ongoing. Bear with us. Follow at SiriusXM FC. You'll get the whole rigmarole of the scheduling. A USL Championship, also tweeting it out with Devon. Mike, let's chat about the West. 3 of the 4 games went, quote-unquote, according to plan. We thought New Mexico had an upset feel around it. Ultimately, Sacramento sees their way through. They get a goal from Rodrigo Lopez to Connor Donovan. That's it. That's all the game had. Sacramento had struggled with New Mexico this year. It did not play out that way on the day. It was just, you wrote yawn. I think that hits the mark.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say that New Mexico did create some chances. I mean, some really good chances. The one that springs to mind was first half side volley off a corner, punched out, half volley from Greg Hurst. Incredible save by Danny Vitiello. Now that's, in my head, that's the best passage. There were some other saves too, but I kind of look at it as you got it out of your system. Job well done. You talked about how they struggled with them before. You go out, you get your result. New Mexico had a decent amount of possession. Sac is willing to sit, as we know. I look at it as also that this is a Sac team that I don't want to say needed to get the monkey off their back, but just kind of they needed some momentum.
They were also terrible in the Open Cup this year.
Yeah.
They gave up goals all over the place, including to an amateur team.
They also said that they were more interested in
$1,000,000%
chasing league play than Open Cup. They've been very clear about that. Now, certainly they want to go and win any game that they set their mind to and that they step on the field for, but they were more interested about advancing themselves in the conversation of USL Championship, certainly the Western Conference, and the possibility of winning the regular season. Now, they accomplished one of two, right? But the other goal is going to be putting another star above the crest. Thought they were fine. It was whatever. It was a quiet game. I'm really interested to see what the offseason looks like for New Mexico United. I like the vision of Eric Quill. I like the style of football that they're playing. They're more aggressive. They seem to be in more tune with each other. The phrase that always stuck out to me from Eric Quill the first time we talked earlier this year, Mike, when we had them for national television was, I'm trying to get their body positioning to change. I want guys on the half turn. I want them forward facing. This idea that just keeping the ball is good enough and will eventually find a way to break you down. And that's not a disrespectful comment to Troy Lesane or Zach Prince and what they brought there. It set the foundation for everything. But he was trying to get guys to advance their minds to push it. We saw some really good glimpses the second half of the season under Eric Quill, and I'm excited to see what that looks like in 2024.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw this out there. One thing I think Rob Salvatore found out in Charleston is when you bring in a new staff, you need to let them operate. And if you're Peter Trevisani, there are a lot of guys with a lot of built-up positive feeling in that community. Not all of them can stay, and you can take a giant step forward. There's going to be a lot of change, most likely. It's the first time there's a new administration, right?
Yeah.
Like Zach was carryover. By the way, Troy Lesane, our boy.
Woo!
Congrats on the playoffs, my dude.
Go get him, buddy. Red Bull, look at them. John Tolkien.
Yeah.
The little legend that he is. Who knew that he had his first professional penalty in him in the 98th minute to send Red Bull into the playoffs?
How do you pronounce JMI? Is that Jamie? Do you say JMI?
I don't know.
Okay. Tolkien penalty, Troy Lesane through. And for what it's worth, if you're an MLS fan, you're listening to this, you're a Red Bull fan, you're listening to this, give Troy time. Maybe New Mexico never hit the ultimate standard that they wanted to get to, but know this. It's not because Troy wasn't as thoughtful, as tactically inclined as any coach we've ever come across.
Yeah.
Give him a little time. Like I saw a poll right before that game, should he keep the job? And it was, Twitter poll, and it's the diehards, and it's like 65% no.
Well, I love the fact that he came out after the game and they qualified and said,
This isn't it.
This isn't it, and this does not replace the lack of results over the course of the season. We're not going to pull a curtain over it and said that never happened. This gives us a chance to play another week. They're going to play tomorrow in a midweek game in the play-in, and then they'll get a shot at Cincinnati. But right now, he cares about 90 minutes, then the offseason, and making next year better. Let's go.
Exactly. All right, San Antonio does knock out Colorado Springs. San Antonio fall into the 4. They get a difficult switchback team. It's a set piece. Jorge Hernandez scores in the 55th. That's all she wrote. San Antonio, throughout the year, Alan Marcina has been clear they aren't quite what they were last year in the sense of mentality. That the F it and get on with it isn't quite the way they've approached this year in the way he expected. All that in mind, here they are again with Sacramento, as fierce a rival as they've had in the Marcina era. That's the matchup. That's the one. We'll talk about it next segment.
I thought it was a very prototypical performance by San Antonio.
Well, yeah, prototypical is a good word.
Just kind of did their thing. The whole idea of they're not the same team as last year, sometimes I don't like it when coaches do that because so many players can be retained, and it's like it's not the same. It's not a college conversation, right? where they lose all these players, and that's a different season and stuff like that. At the pro level, you keep a lot more players, and certainly San Antonio have done that. It just felt like, and I know we've had this conversation for a couple of years from them, it felt like with San Antonio this year that the health has just never been there. And I know that was there last year as well, but last year it just felt like the guys that were on the field were fully healthy and fully bought in. The guys that have been on the field this year haven't been fully healthy. And I'm not saying that they're fully bought in, but when you don't have those supplemental players coming in, giving you that spark, your identity does change a little bit. But I would actually like them to kind of lean into what they were. And I think you saw some of that in some of this game. That mentality monster that was their mantra, Mike, of the 22 winning title team. To me, this restores some of that belief. Kind of like what we were talking about with Louisville. Like, we've been here before. We've done this. You know, they're not the new kid on the block. They've experienced postseason success. They're wearing the star. And reminder that until that whistle blows and they step off the field without a result, that's still the reigning champion. And I think that's the biggest thing you lean into here if you're San Antonio. Forget tactics and everything right now. Lean into the fact that you are pedigree right now, and that belief reigns supreme above all.
If you're Colorado Springs, you sold off upper six figures, if not more, in talent over the offseason. You were still a 5, very easily could have been above that. Is that satisfactory?
No. I talked about level earlier and the belief in a team. I've seen levels from Colorado Springs this year that made me look at them and think they could be a top 1-2 team, 3 at worst. But the level of consistency just isn't there for them. And I know that's frustrating for the players and the coaching staff, but this is something that anyone will tell you. And it's hard hearing it as a fan, Mike, where they go, oh, it's just about being consistent. Well, let's be really clear. If I was more consistent in my performances, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I probably would have ended up in the Premier League making millions of dollars, and I'd be retired at this point in time.
Oh, as a player. I thought you were saying as a commentator. I'm like,
no, as a player.
Wow.
Right? Like, if you can be more consistent in what you do, then you get better opportunities. You are a better player. If someone serves you 100 balls, are 99 of them first touch balls that drop down right in front of you. Okay, well then great. Now we're having a conversation about how good you can be as a pro. If it's 75 or 80, you're probably not playing in the Prem or the Bundesliga or MLS. You're probably moving your way down. That's not a bad thing. Consistency is everything for Colorado Springs, and they're lacking it. They've got to find a way that even when they're not at their best, they can find a way to squeak things out instead of getting shellacked by teams 3 and 4-2.
Yep.
They're still scoring goals, but you can't concede 100. That whole mantra of Brendan Burke, we're going to score 100. I don't care if we concede 99. Well, they're scoring 100. They're conceding 101. It's not good enough.
Nope. Dev, I had Orange County and El Paso on ESPN Plus. Orange County looks extraordinary. They are pressing all over the place. They were missing Kevin Partita in this game, and you didn't really notice, which is pretty remarkable when you think about it. They had a couple players really step in. Let's say this: if you are a El Paso fan, you're looking at this going, I cannot believe we lost because of a bad call, gave the ball to Orange County in first half stoppage, led to an iffy foul call at the top of the penalty area. You need to score to win. You were nowhere near scoring, and I think they'll be the first ones to admit that. You had 89 minutes to find a goal, a real chance. You didn't. And that's my only qualm with the frustration. I understand that you shouldn't have gone down that way, but Orange County also created more, looked better. This isn't a question. Kyle Scott, by the way, was excellent, unreal. El Paso never looked comfortable.
Dude, they scored 2 more goals twice in the final 10 games of the season. They were shut out 4 times. Their offense was horrendous.
It wasn't great. They didn't.
No.
They will continue to progress in years to come, because I do think what Brian Clairhout's trying to do is
100% agree with you. That's a good spot for him. And I've liked talking about styles, the shift from Mark Lowry to Brian. I like that style change as well. Again, not a knock on Mark. Time for new blood, time for new vision. That's another team that, again, you keep some, you move some in the offseason. All of a sudden, 2024, we could realistically be having conversations, if the offseason goes right, of two playoff teams, New Mexico United and El Paso Locomotive, fighting for top 4 spots, which is the way that it should be.
All right, Dev, last one, and regrettably, there's no amount of time we can spend on this that'll feel like enough. Phoenix knocks out San Diego 4-3. Formella, the late game winner in 119. Damas, hat trick, penalty, 7 minutes into stoppage to keep San Diego going for another half an hour. San Diego wins the all-time series, but to look at this through numbers and say they played 10 games so underappreciates what this rivalry was for the last 4 years or whatever it was. It is a shame that San Diego's gone. Name another team where they chant the owner's name as he walks off the field for the last time. It's rare.
Yeah.
They got it right. They did everything right. And the circumstances around them, now they are chrome and azul out in San Diego, and that's what it is. There is no the culture of the wave in NWSL, the culture of what's going to come in MLS was sparked by what happened with Loyal. It's not to say they didn't forge on their own or will forge on their own, but pro soccer was dead there for close to 20 years. Outdoor, indoor, they've got some culture there too. Good for Phoenix. Did not end well in the regular season, but here they go.
Yeah. All of a sudden they're back on track scoring wise. We'll get there in a second. Game itself. Phoenix was better.
Yep.
They were better going forward. The goals given up by San Diego were not travesties, but they weren't good. That team can really defend when they want to, and I didn't find them impressive at all on the evening. It seemed like every single time I turned my head, including on the game winner from Dark Famela, that they were just so blatantly out of position that it hurt. And I'm sure Nate Miller felt the exact same way. Dark Famela had himself a night. He looked great, including, by the way, on the opening penalty. He's the one who flicks the ball up over the top, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
To find Trejo gets knocked down, and then Panos finishes it. Phoenix's attack was sputtering coming in, and they have now to beat a team. By the way, that's the record that you mentioned between Phoenix and San Diego, the 5-3-2 in favor of San Diego. That's just in USL Championship play. San Diego Loyal has also made. Oh no, I was thinking New Mexico there. I was thinking when I started to go
they've
towards
got a heck of
Open
an
Cup.
Open Cup rivalry.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, back Open Cup rivalry. So that's to get over the hump and find an attack and win a playoff game. All three scares me a little bit.
Yep,
in a good way. The Phoenix team scares me. They played very well. Danny Trejo, scores for the first time since who are we going with today? Jimmy Carter administration?
Sure.
That should work. Ronaldo Damas scored not just a postseason goal, San Diego's first postseason goal, which I was shocked at because I just think that this team has been so consistent, kind of like the Pittsburgh argument, throughout the regular season, Mike, that we get into postseason play and you just assume that they've had the same sort of success. But in 2020, they didn't make the playoffs. That was their inaugural year, the COVID year. 2021, they lost 2-0 to San Antonio. San Antonio team that went to the Western Conference Final. And then last year was the upset in most people's minds of the 3-0 loss at home to Oakland. So I was shocked that was the first postseason goal. Damas finishes 7 goals in the final 11 games. They needed that all year, and they'd have a conversation of him winning the Golden Boot and them winning the Western Conference. That's kind of been the mantra, though. It's all of this, but, right? It's just not right there on the field. I said Phoenix is scary. The ball to Trejo from Carlos Harvey is silky smooth and disgusting. They had 12 regular season wins this year, Phoenix Rising. 11 of the 12, they scored first. Only once did they come from behind to win a game. And they did it against San Diego. That's another thing, asterisk, that we could add on. So there's 4 different things to walk into the locker room with. I'm going to miss San Diego because I'm going to miss the conversations with Landon Donovan, with Nate Miller. The locals, awesome. They're very loyal to their team and their community. And the style was pretty. It was fun to watch. They played the game the right way. And I respect them. And my door will always be open to anyone that was involved with that organization.
No doubt. So San Diego is done. Believe it or not. It's They won't be buried with the cup, but man, a lot of adulation. It's deserved.
Agreed.
We're going to chat about the upcoming semifinals with whatever time we have left on the other side of the break right here on USL All Access. Welcome back to USL All Access on this whatever night with Devon and Emmett. Mike, glad to have you with us. The conference semifinals kick off this week. It all leads to the USL Championship final, ESPN2, November 12th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Dev, it starts on Friday night. You'll hear the game on the channel. You'll watch it on ESPN+. Number 1, Sacramento. Number 4, San Antonio. They're meeting for the 13th time. Sac leads by a mere 1 game all time. Sac won it in June, 3-1. They drew it home all the way back in April. 30-second snippets. Go for it.
I would say I would wonder how much patience is going to be needed here for San Antonio on the road, but I would make the same argument for Sac at home because, as we mentioned before, San Antonio's been there. They know how to go and win it, and we saw a little bit of a glimpse of 2022 in last game. How much do they chase and push? Because we know I think Sac will be on the ball more than they expect to, because stylistically they can conflict each other. This smells of a 1-0 or a penalty shootout and a 0-0.
Yep, and for me, San Antonio, don't divert. Punch them in the mouth. Go for it. There's nothing holding you back now. First game on Saturday, 3rd-seeded Battery, 7-seed Birmingham, all-time 3-3-1. Charleston won both meetings, including the last Friday of the regular season. Saturday, 7 Eastern, ESPN+.
I'm curious what the chances are going to be taken by the Charleston Battery from a squad in Birmingham Legion who have shown us all season long that whether it's a 3-back or a 4-back, they can play a wide open game. They can press you. They can sit deep. They can go in a mid block. Birmingham's done everything. Charleston Battery at their best, they do take chances. They're a bit more free flowing. Barajas on the outside, the midfield kind of pushing you into uncomfortable places, which is going to leave space behind in certain areas. That doesn't mean it's counterattacking. That means that if your central midfield starts to shift to one side and they make you uncomfortable with pressure, you get guys in the midfield like an Enzo Martinez who's going to drop down into the pocket and they turn and counter. I don't know if I have a favorite in any of these games that are left on the schedule, to be fair, but if Charleston Battery can not only explode at the individual moments and not chase the game, I would probably favor them because of their youth and how new the team is. I don't know if they have that.
5-seed Louisville, 8-seed Detroit, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN+. Louisville won 5 of the first 6, including Open Cup. Detroit's first win in the series came back in July in Detroit, Dev.
Is this a 1-0 game, Louisville City? Or 2-0?
Yep.
I don't know if Detroit has enough on the road to do it again, and especially walking into the Lions' den. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't. They showed us that against Pittsburgh, but it's just something about Louisville and postseason play, and I agree with you. Carlos was great in the midfield for Louisville City, and what do you know? Can we get Cam Lancaster going? Like the same conversations we're having every single year. 21 postseason wins. They've won at least 1 game every single year since their inception. Detroit is going to have to sit and just find a chance, just like they did last game. That's all they have.
Last one, Orange County 2-seed, Phoenix 6-seed. We've seen this as a conference final before. A lot of different names, 32nd all-time meeting. Phoenix lead 13-9-9.
Yeah, hold on if you're Phoenix Rising, because you're going to want to chase as much as possible. And whether it's Danny Trejo or Panos, Carlos Harvey in the midfield, Hernandez holding it down, a back line that is very, very aggressive, which also scares me because everything that we've talked about for the structure of Orange County has been about having a structure. They have a platform. They've done an incredible job since changing over. I would probably lean towards Orange County. But again, if things open up early, Phoenix scores, they're going to score in droves. They're going to come in waves.
No mailbag for Devon, Emmett, Mike. Enjoy the games on Friday and Saturday on ESPN Plus and here on the channel. We'll talk to you again next week as we get ready for the conference finals. So long for now.